All right. So, um, hey, I am Harish. As I said, I work at Verizon. I'm a principal engineer there. And today I'm going to be speaking about how to personalize chatbots using in-app ratings. And you can extend this logic to beyond chatbots as well. So let me take you through the idea itself and why personalization is important. So first thing is, when you are using a chatbot as a user, you want to have like a really personalized experience. You want to make it very seamless, that it appears that you're actually talking to a real life person. So that is very critical. And lot of times, if a user feels that they're actually talking to a bot, I think sometimes users are not comfortable with it, especially sometimes like old demographics. So it's really important to personalize the experience. Like one interesting use case I recently came across was someone who deployed a chatbot actually intentionally added a lag to the response, because chatbots can very quickly, in like microseconds, sometimes like respond to the user, and the user in that case might get a feeling that, okay, I'm actually not talking to a real person. So they intentionally even added a lag to the chat response. For example, they also in few cases added like intentionally spelling mistakes in the chat to make it feel like, it's a real life person again. So these are some of the things that, we should keep in mind, like when you're trying to build a chatbot and really personalize it. So the idea today that I'm going to discuss is how do you use in-app ratings. So let's say there is an application in which you deploy a chatbot, how you can leverage in-app ratings to really understand the user, segment the user, and then based on that, like personalize the experience of the chatbot for that particular user. So, first of all, just quickly defining what ratings are, or in-app ratings are. So, typically, if you see on Apple Store or Google Store, you see different applications, you see different ratings and reviews. So, those are all like, App Store ratings. But what I'm referring to is in-app ratings, which essentially are when a user is navigating within the application. Sometimes you get this pop-up, how is your experience, like thumbs up, thumbs down. Or sometimes you might have seen, after certain making certain calls, either through Zoom or few other platforms, you will get like a prompt saying that, hey, how was your call, like would you want to rate us. So those are all I recognize as like, or define as in-app ratings. Any rating that is being collected inside the application. So now this is very powerful, because it's not only specific to the application, you can also use it for specific feature as well. Like for example, let's say after the chat, you can actually ask the user, like, how was the chat experience like. Because a lot of times when chatbots are deployed, I think one of the biggest challenges to really understand who the user is, and second, did they like the experience of the chatbot. So one, you can do qualitative testing, but if it's like millions of user, you want to have like objective quantitative response as well. So that's why you can, after the chat, let's say, you can ask them, hey, how was your experience interacting with the chatbot. Obviously you don't want to use the word chatbot, but you just want to say like, how was your experience just after finishing their response, or like they're done with the particular task that they were interested in. Now, why in-app ratings are very powerful? Because like in App Store ratings on like Apple or Google, there is no context available on the user. Very limited context is there. You don't know who the user is, what plan type they are on, when did they start using the application. So there's absolutely like no information that is like readily available and about the user. So that's a big problem. Second, there's an adverse selection issue, which is essentially people who are unhappy are more likely to go on App Store and give a negative rating. So you'll tend to see more negative ratings on the App Store versus in-app will give you like more accurate feedback about how the user perceives the application. So better way to get customer sentiment is inside the application through these ratings, and not on the App Store. And lastly, there's always like constantly changing reviews and ratings that are being like removed by Apple and Google. So again, that also like messes up like the data itself, because it's constantly changing even retroactively. So these are like some of the big challenge of in-app app store ratings. So that's why in-app ratings are more powerful. Now, let's say you deployed a chatbot. You want to collect, okay, how was the experience of the chatbot? So what you can do is after the chat, you ask them for that prompt, right? And you can do a simple user sentiment analysis that, okay, over the from month of March to July, how many ratings did you receive? What was the average sentiment score? So you can do all of this for like a particular chatbot feature. So that's going to give you an understanding of like, are users actually happy with the chat experience or not. Another thing that can be done is, you can actually create certain triggers as well. Like, let's say, maybe not after every chat you want to capture the data, because the user might be overwhelmed that, okay, every time I finish my chat, like, you're asking me for a rating, so it almost might feel like spam. So what you can actually also do is set specific triggers as well. So let's say you want to maybe collect like on few specific days from the user, like about their chat experience. So let's say on day one, you can ask them the first time ever they use the application, and if they end up using the chatbot, or even the first time they use the chatbot, let's say, you can actually ask for a prompt, and then you can even extend it to, like, let's say day seven or the seventh time they use a chatbot. And you can also give like manual triggers. So ultimately, it's the product managers or data scientists who can decide like when they want to trigger this feedback collection process, because you don't want to collect like always feedback, because the user might be overwhelmed. Another thing that can be done from analysis is you can compare the chatbot experience across different plan types. So let's say there are two plans within the application, and the chatbot is catering to both the plan types. So what you can really see is there any difference in the chatbot experience, like from an end user's perspective? Are people who are in plan one more happy with the chatbot versus people in plan two? So that kind of analysis can also help you really understand that, is there any difference in the experience of the chatbot? And then for the ones where there is a gap or low satisfaction, then you can do like take improvements or take certain corrective measures. So apart from plan type, they can also be like, let's say, geography, age, other demographics, like plan type, date of activation. Like, let's say, people who activated the app or people who joined the app in month of April versus March. Is there any difference in the chatbot experience? Like, because the app is constantly changing, the chatbot is also constantly changing. So you want to be able to do various like slice and dice analysis to be able to understand that how is the chatbot experience, like, is it uniform for all the users, or are there any variations based on like different parameters? And based on that, you can actually understand, okay, these are the areas where I see there is a huge gap, and that's when you can actually take corrective measures to improve it. uh, Another cool thing that one could do is, you can perform like simple clustering k-means, like unsupervised learning, to see how user segments can be created based on the chatbot experience. Let's say someone who gave a 1 star on the chatbot versus 5 star, you can actually then use clustering mechanisms to really see people who gave 5 star rating. What are some of the characteristics that these users have? What are the fundamental parameters that is affecting their experience? Like, as I said, is it plan type? How many times that they're using the chatbot? How many times they're using the application itself? So there could be host of different parameters, but like ultimately the idea is to segment the users or create certain segments using machine learning based on their chatbot rating or satisfaction score. uh, Another thing that one could do from like after the chat is not only ratings. This is a sample like word cloud I picked up from the internet. But after the chatbot, let's say after using the chatbot, let's say you want to collect the rating, but sometimes you want to maybe collect the review as well. You can ask like a free flow text box, giving them an option to describe how their experience was. And you can use all that reviews as well, not just ratings, to really understand, okay, what are some of the things that they're speaking about the chatbot. Like, is it too slow, is it too fast, is it making sense, is are there any errors, how relevant the content on the chatbot is. So there could be so many different types of reviews. So one, you can give a free flow, like an empty text box to collect these reviews, or you can even prompt the user, like give them like top 5 maybe major issues, and ask them saying that, okay, you've given a 5 star or a 1 star. Based on that, like what is actually good with the application, what is bad with the application. Give them like a prompt of like top 5 issues, and maybe ask them to pick like one or two. So that's also like very useful information to really understand like more objective qualitative data from apart from the ratings as well. Another thing that is like very useful from a chatbot experience is ultimately you want to be able to see how many people are like, because of the chatbot, happy with the application or the customer support or whatever you're deploying it for. Ultimately you want to see, based on their chatbot experience, how long are they staying in the application. Is it helping them retain longer? So what you can do is, let's say someone gave a 5 star rating on the chatbot, or like 1 star rating from their experience. You can then compare their churn as well, and see people who have given higher rating or better rating on the chatbot experience, are they tending to stay longer. That way you can also like try to understand like how chatbot experience is contributing to overall retention on the application itself. So this data like just signifies that, like one of the data points that like from the application I manage, we could see that these in-app ratings can be actually leading indicator of churn. So which means that you can actually understand or predict people who are more likely to leave versus like people who are more likely to stay, because how happy they are with the chatbot experience or the application overall. And this is very powerful because it's a leading indicator of churn, which means that even before someone leaves the application or deactivates the application, you can actually understand or predict that, okay, this particular person is very likely to deactivate. So now, once you have that very useful information of who is the happy user, who is the unhappy user, you can even personalize your entire chat experience. So let me talk you through like what that could mean. But before that, like few other kinds of like areas that analysis can be done, where chatbot rating and churn can be actually taken together and analyzed. So for example, here I see there's a big spike in churn. So once there's a big spike in churn, you're trying to understand if there was any issues with the chatbot, let's say on that particular day. So if this particular day where you see a high anomaly, there is like a major issue, then you can actually kind of like try to look at your chat experience on that particular day, and then see that were there any errors with the chatbot? Were there any issues? Did people complain about something on the chatbot? So you can actually try to look at chatbot and then the churn data and then bring it together to really understand why people were unhappy, why people were leaving the platform, and then you can take certain corrective measures. The same with like the chart below, like I can see, for example, you can do cohort analysis where, let's say on day 7 I see highest number of churn, 9% users typically leave on day 7 of joining the application. So what you can do is you can look at your chatbot experience from day 1 to day 6 and then see what are the things that people are complaining about in terms of the application, what are people talking about in the experience from the chat, and then try to look that data and then get this churn data and really see like why are people leaving on day 7 and then make certain corrective measures to keep them longer. Lastly, also one other important thing that users could do or product managers could do is you can actually identify what is the navigation pattern within the application. So let's say this is a network analysis diagram of like people navigating within the application. So these individual nodes are each screens and features. So you can actually see like how users are navigating within the application and see, are there any dead ends, are people like confused about something in terms of the user experience, and are they talking about it in the chatbot? Again, combining network analysis and chatbot rating, you can see like what are the users issues in terms of the navigation itself. Same with engagement, you can see people who have given 1 star on chatbot versus 5 star. You can see how many times are they using the chatbot, like are people who are using it more, are they more happy, or actually they're facing more problems, that's where they're unhappy and giving a low star rating. So that's another powerful way to get engagement on the chatbot versus like what is the satisfaction score on the chatbot, and then those two things you can combine to see overall like what is the experience on the chatbot. And lastly, I just want to conclude by saying that once you identify happy users and unhappy users based on your chatbot rating, you can actually do a lot of like powerful targeting messaging in the chatbot itself. Let's say someone is a happy user, what you want to do is maybe um, provide them like upselling opportunities, provide them upgrades. You want to increase revenue from the happy users. So in the chatbot, let's say after the question is addressed, you can ask them, hey, do you want to check out other products, do you want to upgrade to a better plan? So you can do all these prompts once you know who the happy user is based on the chatbot rating, or the even the in-app rating overall as well. Apart from that, one another thing you can do is, let's say if someone is a unhappy user or an unsatisfied user, what you can do in that case is offer them discounts, offer them extended trial period. So various things that one could experiment to retain these users longer inside the application, or ensure that they're not deactivating. So just to summarize the key takeaways, like one, really important to identify who's the happy user, unhappy user, how's the chatbot experience like, collect all of this feedback. Once you've collected all this feedback, you can perform various analysis to see what is really making users happy or unhappy with the chatbot. And once you have that and try to fix that, another thing you could do is run targeted campaigns to increase the revenue from a happy user, and for the unhappy user, try to retain them by giving them discounts or extended trial period and few other things. So overall, I think the very important key message is you have to personalize the chatbot based on the satisfaction score of the user on the application or on the chatbot. Without personalization, chatbots are going to fail, and you're operating in the dark without real problem solving or really adding value to the user. So with that, I just want to say thank you, and it was great speaking with you.